Doc?
Oh, you got to turn this down. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. No worries.
No, that's him, not me. I didn't start it.
Gotcha. Welcome to the Boulder City Sports Network Coaches Show. I'm Matthew Felsenfeld, and I'm here with Coach Bubba.
Hello, everybody.
Glad to be back for another week. Boulder City with a big win this week, 43-42 and a nail biter. It was quite the game to watch. Those ones are fun to watch. The first half was a little rough. Guys getting the ball stripped out of their hands, missing tackles. You're on the road playing a team that probably didn't have everyone the week before, so you're kind of seeing new kids. Talk about the first half.
First half was it was sloppy. There's no other way to say it. We kind of saw a little bit when we went through the film this week and watched, and we were able to show the kids a little bit more of what we don't want from them. We just came out really, really slow, really lethargic, and just didn't get going. That's something that I've seen the last 2 years with our teams is we take a good amount of time before it seems like we're ready to start playing and getting going. The first 2 weeks of the year, I didn't really feel that from our kids. I felt like we were a little bit more up to the challenge and ready to play. Friday night, it was not the case. We were very lethargic. The line looked good and we were blocking, but all of our skill guys just kind of seemed to be in like mud. I don't know how else to describe it.
It was interesting. When you come out like that, it really puts you in a hole, especially with the team that's got a lot of skill players and they kind of thrive on their skill players. And some of the plays that you saw, like getting the ball ripped out of your hand and run back for a touchdown, like that should make you angry, like make you mad. That stuff shouldn't happen, And, like you were saying earlier, going into the defensive side, talk about a little bit more of how you think they did in the first half coming from last week. Because, the week before that, they struggled a lot on the run game. And, this week, I think they did a little bit better than the second half on the run game. But the first half, they were missing tackles and letting guys slip through them. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we definitely knew coming into the game, we had a very good game plan. We know they're going to be a spread team. So it was a little bit more, spread out, and we're trying to contain the run game. Going on film, we saw number 2 from them had played wide receiver the week before, so we were really keying on him for our coverages and like really trying to take number 2 away. And then when we showed up Friday night, all of a sudden number 2 is warming up with a cannon for an arm, and we were like, where did that come from? So that was great. So kind of with the game plan to kind of keep them contained, nothing really had to change. I think early on we realized that they were going to be probably trying to run the ball with him a little bit more. And again, we were in the right spots for a lot of it. We've got to work a little bit more with our defensive ends, and we got some work with them this week that I think you'll see a difference this week with it because it's very similar offense. But it's just a matter of tackling. We were getting there, and their guy was a little slippery, and my wife commented on it about how she'd never seen a quarterback do so many spin moves on one run, and he really was, and we were just kind of flying off of him, and it's all based on us tackling too high. One of the things I said to the kids at halftime was, you've just got to go low. We don't get any bonus points for a perfect form tackle. Get in, get low, put your helmet between your helmet and shoulder pads at his knees. Coach Dunnigan always does the different rules of football and eyes to the thighs, and was just explaining to them eyes to the thighs, just get there and do it. We had a couple guys in the second half kind of start to get it, but again, we're really not even comfortable with that. It looked like our guys are going to get hurt because we kind of turn into it, but we've just got to get lower. If we get lower, I think our defense is going to be really good because we're getting to guys where we want to get to them, a 3-yard gain at the line of scrimmage, stuff like that, but then they're just dragging us, and it's taken us 5, 6, 7 more yards to pull them down.
No, and that's what me and Coach JJ were talking about earlier was, if Coach JJ wants to talk a little bit more about this, I know.
So, one of the things I noticed, too, is swarm tackling, having that mentality of your team, having 11 guys to the ball, that, as you know as well as I do, it's not always possible.
Right.
But that's the goal that we shoot for, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want everyone there.
Right.
And so what kind of, from a coaching staff, are you guys doing any type of, anything like that to stress the importance of tackling as a club, and maybe proper pursuit angles and just in wrapping, tackling, driving, that kind of stuff versus just popping?
We do the tackling drills with Coach Dunnigan, the DTCs, the Dunnigan tackling camp.
I went through DTC.
Yeah, we've been doing that all the time. We've kind of changed it a little bit this year because like a lot of times our defensive linemen, they're not going to be doing angle tackles and stuff like that. So we've kind of divided it up a little bit more. Render does a good job working with the defensive linemen and like getting there to wrap up. The one thing I will say, and I understand if you're a football guy and you watch the way our defense kind of tackles and stuff like that, I get we're not a real good swarming tackle team, but I challenge you to go back and look at our games last year, and we look like the 85 Bears this year compared to what we were at last year. We're getting guys there. Last year, our problem was one guy would get to the tackle and the other 10 would literally just completely stop and just stand there. So this year, we're moving to the ball. We're getting there. We're not bringing them down the first time, but if we don't bring them down, there's a guy right there to do it that hasn't given up on the play. So in the overall grand scheme of things, I'm much happier with what we're doing this year as opposed to where we were at last year. I do think that's something we do need to work on a little bit, and we haven't had a chance to really get into it a ton this year, is, just kind of the drill of this is a defense, we kind of work our pursuit angles and go. It's been better. It really has. That's one of the things we've talked about is like, at least we're not stopping. That was the thing last year where we would get there, we'd spin the guy around, and the other 10 guys are like, all right, looking to the sideline, see what's going on, and then that guy's still running. So it's a baby step thing, but it's getting better.
What you could do is, I bet Don would be willing to buy pizzas for every stat where you had 3 players in a tackle. You'd get 4 or 5 of those in a game. I bet Don would buy
I would hope that a championship would be good enough.
Well, I think we could do the pizza thing because at this rate you're buying a half a pizza a week. So we'll try and get up to that.
That's good. That's good to see progress. Obviously, yeah. That's what you want to see as a coaching staff. Yeah. Everybody always thinks of just like, okay, how's this year going? But they don't really look at, hey, overall, are we moving in the right direction as a program? Right, and that's something that we really have talked about. Where, like I said, last year it was one guy would get there and then there was no follow up. This year there's, especially against like Valley, there was a ton of gang tackling against Valley. Last week there was gang tackling, but it was that we're getting dragged for 4 yards and then guys are kind of coming to finish off. Where in the past we would just get dragged and the rest of the guys would like watch and make fun of them. So it makes sense. It's getting better. So going back, you guys had a couple turnovers in the first half. Did we? I don't remember. Were they key ones? Were they big ones? Did they hurt us? I don't remember. And going into halftime, we talked a little bit. You had a little coming to Jesus with your team. You don't have to go into details or whatever.
Ask your children about it. Ask your children about it.
Going in, like, those kind of meetings obviously wake the team up.
Right.
You guys come back and win the game. When you guys are down playing, probably your worst game of the season. Just talk about those kind of meetings and, like, how your kids responded at least to it.
It really was the first time that I felt like there was a fire in their eyes after halftime. Awesome. I think they realized that team was not better than us. We were giving them all the opportunity in the world. We saw, if you guys watched the game, there were a handful of plays of things that I've never seen in a football game that all went against us in pretty much one half of a game. The instance where the guy just rips the ball out of Cam's arm and goes for a touchdown. It was a good 10 seconds of their guy running the end zone where I'm really processing why Cam has stopped running because I couldn't wrap my head around what had just happened. And then the other fumble right before halftime, and this is a thing that I've talked to fans and they didn't really realize what was happening. Yeah. Did you know what that play was?
Was it a hook and ladder?
It was a hook and ladder.
I was going to say.
Right? Yeah. And that's something we've run last year, and I was like, we've got this. They are flying up. I was like, all right, Flake, we're doing it. We had a timeout, and we literally like talked about it. And I was like, you know what you're doing on this, right? And he was like, yeah, totally. And I was like, okay. And then we had explained to Garrett what he was doing, and there were still a few questions when they went out on the field, but I was like, they've got it. They know what's happening. And as soon as Gavin caught the ball and turned upfield, I just went, oh no. And then he thought he was thinking more of like an option.
Yeah.
That's his excuse. I think he just forgot. He got excited with the ball in his hand and then just flipped it to nobody. Yeah. And, like, I don't even, like, how do you, it's infuriating, but, like, I don't even know what you do at that point, you know?
No, that's true. That's a good point.
It was just tough. And if you saw it, and, like, from my angle right there down the sideline, their safety flying to the inside, their corner was flying up. I don't know if Garrett's going to score on that because of their team speed, but it's a good 50, 60-yard gain, and it's a race to the end zone, and it was just right there. And I was telling a couple of the coaches, I was like, this is one of those things, like, if that works, everyone's like, Bubba is a genius. Yeah. And then as the ball hits the ground, I'm like, I'm getting fired.
That's funny. Yeah, when we're watching those plays, those are like, you're right, those are kind of like plays where you're just like, what just happened?
Right.
It kind of just like blank you for a second.
And this is the thing too, that like really we were able to do this week for the first time, and granted it didn't work, but I haven't felt like this year, like since kind of when Gage went down, that we've been able to kind of freestyle a little bit on offense and make things happen that, like, hey, we haven't practiced this, but they're giving us this, let's try it, and like the first couple weeks, like, there was a little bit of panic in our guys' eyes that there was like, I just need to do what's going on, but like I also don't know what's going on, and I just need to go out there. But this week the kids were a little bit more flexible and responded to that stuff, and we were able to make some little decisions like that. And like I said, the hook and ladder, like, it could have been amazing. It could have been the greatest, like, little riff ever, but we tried.
I think you guys did a great job going into the second half. It obviously seemed like something might have happened in the locker room. Obviously, we can't see that from just watching the game, but the way that they played in the second half was a lot better. And another thing I want to bring up is, I don't think Cam Matthews had that bad of a game, truthfully. 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 fumble, 1 interception, and you got to remember he's
2 interceptions,
but he's still, he's a middle linebacker,
right.
He's still transitioning over. You got to give him some leeway.
Right.
But, you guys spread out the ball a little bit more this week. 4 players had a touchdown on your team, 4 receivers, and, it wasn't just Easton. So that's awesome. Talk about that a little bit.
No, and that's something we talked about it last week, where I said we were going to emphasize getting the ball underneath a little bit more. And with them playing kind of the off coverage that they were, we were able to hit those guys underneath, kind of make them take their eyes off of Easton. It also helped that Easton might have gotten into a little bit of trouble in the first half and didn't get to play the rest of the first half. But it got people involved. It kind of, that little bit of being able to spread the ball around, they can't just focus on one guy. And then when he was out, they literally kind of didn't know what to do. They're kind of bouncing around and didn't really know where the ball was going to go. And Cam did a good job of getting the ball out underneath to the open guy. Because we were able to do that early, then in the second half, we could take a few shots, and that's another thing too. Where we could kind of make an adjustment. We ran a play that isn't really in our playbook, but we could tell by the way the safety was coming up and kind of favoring Easton that we could go a go route with the outside guy and a post to the inside guy. We ran it a couple times earlier in the game, and we threw it to Easton, but the guy that ran the post was absolutely wide open. They just did not go with him. And then we came back to it with Easton running the post. We got it to him. And but the kids were starting to understand a little bit more. You know what I mean? And like making those adjustments on the run and going with it. And Cam really did. He threw the ball well when we needed to. I don't know what the completion percentage was for him, but it was way higher than it was the week before, and he was able to kind of see the short stuff underneath and just get it to the guys and let them do their thing.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something where you want to be is progressing each week. Like you said, he's just got thrown in there, and you just want to see him get better. And so, talking about that progressing each week, having a receiver like Easton, I might not have got to play this like whole first half or whatever, but in the second half, you see him go up, make a catch, make 2 guys miss like out of nowhere, and he scores a touchdown, or he returns a punt for whatever. We talk each week about having a player like that.
Right.
How is Cam, like when Cam has a player like that, is Cam starting to play up to that level? Is he starting to mesh with Easton a lot more in practice? If that makes sense to you?
I understand what you're saying, and I think more than anything, it's Easton has kind of dominated even the practices. You know what I mean? Like, it's the ball goes to Easton 90% of the time. Where it's actually where Cam has matured is he's starting to look for the other guys a little bit more. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's something that is going to help us. You know, that was a huge part to our success last year offensively is, you know, I think if you look at it and like people on the outside, Brady was by far our best receiver. If you were scouting us, you were putting 2 guys on Brady. Brady still got the carries and stuff like that, but you know, Jappy and Render and Easton on the backside did plenty, and it was really most games it was fairly even. You know what I mean? Where we had a bunch of guys between 3 and 7 catches, you know, and it would go up and down. And I think that's the beauty of what this offense really can do with all the quick passing game stuff. It's when Cam starts to see it, you know where the ball's going to go before every snap, based on the way they're aligned and stuff like that. It's real quick, easy reads, and if teams are going to give us the zone stuff, the ball gets spread out, and you can do whatever you want, and you can cover Easton. Easton's still going to be able to get himself open. We'll still find ways to get him the ball, but those other guys making plays are what's going to make everybody a little bit better.
Yeah, makes sense. I just want to talk a little bit about your defense in the second half. Like you said, in the second half, they kind of woke up. You see a lot more. You see better tackling. Mm-hmm. The nose guard your D line is getting through a little bit more. Passes aren't getting through. Talk about like the second half of defense.
Well, I mean, even though they were kind of running the ball, it was really that one long touchdown run early. But we only gave up 2 defensive touchdowns. Our defense played pretty good. You know, if you really think about it, we hold on to the ball like we should. It's, you know, you're looking at like a 41-14 game or something like that, and then that's, you know, the defense played awesome. No, I was very happy with the way they played. Our biggest thing with our guys right now is still getting them to do their responsibility with the new defense. One of the things that we really struggled with, and we've got some guys that were playing the position of like the defensive end, and getting them to understand it's not the old school defensive end where you're lined up on the line and you're crashing. We were lined up like that, I would say 90% of the night, and that's not where they're supposed to be. Our defensive ends should be about 3 yards outside the tackle and off the ball.
Yeah.
Our guys are going in and attacking the tackle and getting themselves blocked when they should be 3 yards outside containing. I think this week with some of the adjustments we've had to make because of injuries and stuff like that, I think our guys at defensive end this week are going to do a little bit better job of that. But no, I was not at all disappointed with what our defense did last week.
Yeah, no. And before I get into my last one, you like to talk about that, or?
You know, nothing off the top of my head. You know, I had a great opportunity to talk to Coach right before we got on the camera, and you know, he shared a lot of stuff with me already that answered a lot of my questions. So, but I'll make sure I chime in.
You guys at home don't get to hear all those answers.
Yeah,
top secret.
So you ended up the game with a field goal with 17 seconds left.
Yeah.
In high school, you know, you don't always see that, truthfully. Those are always really fun, especially for the kids. I mean, you get to see someone that doesn't get a lot of recognition, your kicker, kick a game winner. Talk about, you know, how he felt after the game. You know, that's fun, you know?
Well, I will tell you something, and there's a little bit of a backstory to this, too. So Cash Daly is our kicker. He is a sophomore. He was not our kicker at the start of the year. Victor Levitt was. He got hurt. Victor's actually going to be coming back to us next week. But Cash came out last year and started kicking and was decent. I'm not going to say good. He was decent. But for the freshman team, we were like, that is not bad. That is a decent kicker for the freshman team. Some stuff happened eligibility-wise in terms of like COSA and things like that. So he wasn't able to play baseball or football last year. This year coming in, when Victor got hurt, I was like, all right, Cash, you're the next guy up. It's one of those things when a kicker gets hurt, if you've ever been around high school football, everybody and their mother thinks they're a kicker. And when Victor went down, it was right before the first week. I knew Cash could kick us extra points, and I told Coach Armstrong, I'm like, we're not looking for a kicker. Cash is the kicker. We're just kind of doing that. Going into the Valley game, when we had done practices and we're doing kickoffs and stuff like that, he was not kicking the ball past the other 40-yard line. It was bad. And like, we were all like, ooh, we might have made a mistake here. And then we get into the Valley game, and if you remember, all of his kickoffs were down like inside the 20-yard line. We're like, all right, he's a gamer. Didn't want him to kick anything early. We let him kick one late in the game. He made it. Everything was great. The second week, he made the one. He missed the other one. The one he missed, I'm not putting it on him. That was a bad snap. It wasn't a great hold. The fact that he got it to where he did, awesome. So that's kind of a little bit of the backstory. The other thing, too, that I will say, I've been around Cash since he was 5 years old, and he has just been a solid kid. He ended up playing varsity this year, varsity baseball, stepped in and gave us a buttload of innings, and there was never any like nerves or anything. Him being a freshman, he just kind of went out and did his job, and like he is the most solid kid you're ever going to be around. So this week in practice, I think it was Wednesday, he goes and just kicks extra points. Then he started backing it up to kind of see, and we're like, see if you could kick it a little bit deeper. Your leg's getting stronger, blah, blah, blah. But he's always kicking from the middle of the field. Always. Only kicking from the middle of the field. So on Wednesday, I go, hey, you need to like kick from the hash. And he was like, what does that mean? The ball's not always going to be in the middle of the field. Like, it might be one hash or the other. So we let him go kick, and I'm kind of watching him while we're doing other stuff. And if he's on the left hash, he's kicking the ball straight and missing to the left. If he's on the right hash, kicking the ball straight and missing to the right. I go, okay, I'm going to show you something. Line the tee up this way, and then you take your steps accordingly, so you're kicking straight at the goalpost, so you're not trying to fix it. And he was like, oh, okay. So then we start doing that, get the snap and the hold and everything. Very good from the left side, because he could see the ball, the holder's not in the way, everything's awesome. Right side, horrible. Can't see the snap, missing everything. He's kicking everything way to the left. And I go, you know what, Cash? This is the last thing I said to him on Thursday at practice. I go, if it ever comes down to a game-winning field goal, I will make sure to give you the ball on the middle of the left hash. I won't do the right hash. Fast forward to 17 seconds left on Friday night. Field goal team, I turned and look, and we're on the right hash. Hey, you watch me, I go, hey, guess what? You're on the right hash. Better effing make it. And then sent him out there. And then the best is we had a timeout, and the referee was like, you guys got a timeout. Do you want to use this to get you guys thought? I go, absolutely not. I do not want him thinking about this anymore. Line it up and go.
Hey, nailed it though.
Yeah, no, it was, and that's the thing where I 100% believe in that kid, because I don't feel like the pressure is ever going to get to him. I think it was just another kick, and like, it sounds mean, but like, I don't know that he realized how much pressure was on it. You know what I mean? I think he understood, like, yeah, I got to make this kick and we win the game, but I don't think he realizes he gets run out of town and there's dude with pitchforks at his house if he misses it, but he made it, so everybody loves him.
I've noticed a lot of times with coaching, when I've had an opportunity to coach, a lot of having the confidence of the head coach or their skilled coach, that makes all the world in the difference. And when they know that you trust them, and so kudos for you and your coaching staff. And so I just want to commend you on that, because I think it's important. It's great to, I'll be the first to, I've ripped some kids and got on them because they're not doing what they should be doing. But then I have to make sure that after I break them down, I also need to stop, let it soak in, and then I need to build them back up, because if I don't, then I've damaged a little bit there.
Right.
And I don't want to create that wedge between where I want them to always be able to trust what their coaches are telling them, right? So kudos to you and your coaches for doing that. Good job for that.
And that's one of those things too where I totally understand what you're saying, but I'm more of the guy that, like, no matter how good you are, I'm going to keep you just a notch lower than that. You know what I mean? Like, and not in a mean way where, like, but I will 100% give the kids a hard time about everything. And, like, you could be awesome, but then I'm going to make a joke or a jab and, like, bring you back down to earth a little bit. You know what I mean?
That's true too, and I agree with what Coach JJ says, but your point is true too, because I see a lot of kids, they get praised, right, and they get, player of the year or something, and then all this goes to their head, and before they know it, they're not practicing, they're taking time off, and they start to...
And it's tough, and especially with, like, the young, I feel like high school kids are kind of the most susceptible to it, and I do think being in a small town like Boulder City, it is it really is a thing. Like, you have a good game on a Friday night, and everybody in town knows about it, and everybody knows who you are, and it's very easy to kind of get in your head and like, I'm awesome, and my job is to make sure you remember, well, no, these are the things you kind of screwed up on. You know what I mean? And that was one of the things. So after, when we were watching film, we were talking before we even got into film, and I made a comment about how, like, I was impressed. I didn't realize we had thrown for as many yards as we did. I knew we threw for a decent amount. I kind of didn't realize how long some of those passes were to Easton. And I was like, yeah, like, I saw today, we threw for over 300 yards. I was like, good job, Cam. And, you know, Cam, like, if you know Cam, like, Cam's like, yeah, well, you know, I mean, you should have been doing that from the start, you know what I mean? And then I go, but you also just handed the ball to the defender at one point, and you threw 200 stuff. Calm down, you know what I mean? So, no, it's a good happy medium.
No, that's what you got to do, honestly. And the players love that. Like, coming from a player's perspective, I used to play, like, when the coaches are messing with you, like, when you do something good and they mess with you back, that builds more of a relationship. You know that it's a relationship. And
I think as coaches, we kind of do that with each other as well. Yeah. Perfect example of this. First, you know, we weren't really doing much offensively, and our first touchdown was the little, like, T-swing to Garrett, and he had a great run, went the whole way. I call the plays. I did not call that play. That was not a me thing. It was not any of the kids' thing. That was my son, Asa. He, like, came up and he was like, you've got T-swing. I was like, all right, whatever, Asa. And then he went and found Garrett and explained to Garrett what was going on. When we came back, we called the play with Cam over on the sidelines, and, like, he came out into the huddle and was like, run the T-swing, it's there. And I was like, yeah, but we need Cam. He's like, I already talked to Garrett. So, like, Garrett went in, and, like, that whole thing of, like, hey, we're finally scoring. It wasn't even me. It was an 8th grader. But, like, and everyone's like, of course Asa called that play.
Yeah. So I want to get into your quarterback. So he's out for now, and some rumor is going around saying that he might be out for the whole season, but obviously I don't think that's true. When Gage comes back, and hopefully earlier than later, what transition do you guys think you're going to end up making? Do you know? Do you want to make a comment on that yet, or?
What do you mean? What
like,
transition?
Obviously, is Cam just going to go right back to middle linebacker?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense. That's Cam knows that. I'm guessing.
Yeah, and like that, and that's one of those things where if Gage comes back, and, you know, hopefully that happens and stuff like that, I think we'll have to see what things he's capable of doing, where he's at, and, like, you know, that's another thing too. Like, I don't want to throw him out there and be like, hey, we're going to run our offense the same way. Like, he's got a life after high school football. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to put him in a situation that's going to get him hurt. If he is able to go, our offense will look very close to what it is now, but a little bit different, but very similar to what we're doing now, because it's not like we're running Cam a ton. But, you know, that's something that as we get there, like, it's not, I don't think there's any sort of quarterback controversy or anything like that, sense. You know, and it's just, if he's ready to go, he's ready to go, you know.
And I'm guessing to be honest with you, I'm guessing you went in telling Cam, like, hey, he might be back at the end of the season.
Oh, yeah, like, everybody knows.
Cam probably knows. Like you said, he's the middle linebacker. Right. He probably wants to go back to just blowing kids over, and that's going to help you guys out. My last question about Sunrise Mountain is, going back from last week, it was a rough game. This week, first half was a rough game. Second half was a lot better. Are you seeing the progress you want to see going into league?
I am. I will say, and we pointed it out in film, our biggest issue with everybody, I think our assignments, we're doing our assignments, we know our assignments. Offensive line has gotten progressively better each week. That has not been an issue whatsoever. Been very happy with that. I feel like the defense has been pretty good. Our biggest thing going into league is we've got to get our skill guys to give us a little bit more. There were plays on Friday night where when we were watching film, you know, the ball would be snapped and it'd be like snap, pause. I'd wait about that long, about a half second to a second, where everybody on the field is moving and our receivers are standing in the same spot. We are getting very lazy routes. We are not blocking at all in our run plays and stuff like that. Our routes are not crisp. It's bad.
And
I think
I also noticed when they're breaking the huddle, the same thing. They're walking up to the line.
Right.
And, maybe that sense of urgency that
Right.
they need to race up and get set.
Right. And that's part of it too, where we're calling pass plays, and we got on them this week, where we've got trips to the wide side, and our outside receiver needs to be at the closest, the top of the numbers, but hopefully the bottom of the numbers for his alignment, and we're 2 yards outside the hash. And it's only because we're lazy and we're not walking out the rest of the way. And then when we're running that route that way, we're not giving really any of an effort. Like I don't chart the plays when we call, I don't have a coach there writing down blah, blah, blah. Been doing the offense forever. I can, and honestly, for the most part, can remember kind of what play we called. But if not, when we're watching film, this is power, this is that. When we're running our pass plays, I can't tell you what we're running, so that's a hard thing for Cam, where we should be running this, but we've got 3 guys that are nowhere near where they're supposed to be, and I think early in the year, there was a little bit of confusion, but really this week we kind of stepped up with them and told them, listen, you are not guaranteed a spot. We've got other guys that can go. This week we're going to have a lot more receivers in the game because they're going to give us a full effort, and I think once we get that, I think that's our last group that really needs to start carrying their weight a little bit, which is weird to say because we had a good game from a lot of them, but they had a good play on the play when it went to them, but then you look and there's 5 or 6 others where the ball doesn't go to them, where it's really bad.
What are they doing when the coach
Right.
isn't watching?
Exactly.
That's what matters. Are you making the block for a teammate? Are you making that tackle? Are you holding your line so they're going inside
Right.
so they can make another tackle? It's not always just about your play, and that's something that
So
I
they've
think
kind of
is
been
right.
challenged this week to give us a little bit more, and that's once we get to that point, I think we're going to be pretty good. I think for those skill guys, the last 3 weeks, they've kind of taken a step back, and we really, really saw it this week and really emphasized that with them. And I think once they get to that, and it's not even I'm not asking you to do anything special. I'm not asking for any diving plays or anything amazing. Just do what you can do, and I think when we get that, I think that's going to be the big thing for us.
Say the inside guy runs a hard Chris out, you might get the guy on the post open.
Right.
That's you're helping other people, and that's like you're saying.
And that's one of the things with that quick game offense. It's everything is reliant on spacing. So when we're running a route, if we're reading the corner, this guy's got a slant stop, this guy's got a smash route over the top. He's got to choose. So it's very easy. If he goes back, we hit that guy. If he comes up, we hit the other guy. But if we're going half speed and not where we're supposed to be, how is a quarterback supposed to make a read? You know what I mean?
2 people.
And for a guy if that happens and, a guy is seasoned at quarterback and can run and can do all that stuff, he might make something happen. But for a guy that's, we're really just kind of taking small incremental steps with him, that makes it tough on Cam, and then it makes Cam look bad when it's not Cam's fault. You know what I mean? But he, like I said, he did a good job this weekend. He got the ball where he needed to.
What's great too is you're picking that stuff up now.
Right.
So hopefully you and your staff can get them prepared and where they need to be. So when we enter league play, we're not dealing with that stuff. We're now getting better and building upon where we need to be. And so that's really nice to hear too from an outside perspective.
Absolutely.
Because we always want to, as an owner of a company, I don't want to see my employees doing the same thing and not getting better. Likewise with football, we want our kids to get better. We want to encourage them, tell them what they're doing wrong.
Right.
And so I think you're going to start to see your leaders step up and start to perform and hopefully be a bigger leader for everyone else on the field.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the things really coming out of halftime, it was, like I said, there was a little bit more of a fire in the kids' eyes than we've seen all year. I think our, not necessarily our captains, but just senior guys that care were a little bit more vocal. And that's kind of the thing that needs to happen from the jump. We can't wait until we're down, because there's going to be teams that we play that if we're down 20-7 at halftime, we don't stand a chance. And that's just the reality of it. So going forward this week, Mater is a good Mater. I feel so rude when I say that, but it's so hard for me to do it the other way. Mater, they're a good athletic team, and I told the boys this week, this one's for real. This one's a keeper game. This is for playoffs. This is for positioning in playoffs. This is a team that we beat twice last year that they're going to come out. I don't know exactly how many guys they have back, but they're going to come out ready to punch us in the mouth. They want this, and I think the kids are starting to understand that a little bit more, and like we've explained that to them. So I'm excited to see what we get this week, and the added thing of like homecoming and all that. Like, it's a big week. There's a lot of stuff going on, and we've got to be ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome to hear. That's good. As a fan, you don't want to hear, I don't know about next week.
Right.
You're optimistic, you're happy, and they should be happy, honestly. Right. You're going into league. Talking about Mater, they're 2-2. They like to throw the ball, it seems like, a lot more. So me and JJ were talking earlier. Your secondary has seen a lot of runs. Sunrise Mountain threw the ball. They had at least one passing touchdown down the middle. What are you guys going to do to prepare for a passing team like that?
Well, the beauty of it is when our defense was installed this year, we run against our own offense. That's what we're doing, so they've seen a lot of spread stuff. I think we've got a lot of really good defensive backs that really haven't had a chance or an opportunity to show what they can do, because Valley didn't really throw the ball. Losi didn't throw the ball at all. No. And even Sunrise, they didn't throw the ball as much as they could have. So we've got 4 really good defensive backs that know what they're doing. I'm excited to see them actually play. The other thing, too, we've got 2 guys playing that defensive end where they're going to be doing a little bit of dropping back. It's 2 guys that have always played secondary stuff where they haven't had a chance to get into their drops and do their sort of thing and like keep the quarterback contained. But no, it'll be good. I think we've practiced for this a lot, and this is kind of the first week that we're going to kind of see these kids be able to do some of the things that we know that they can do.
So defensively, that was that. But offensively, you said that you're going to spread the ball a little bit more. I mean, this week you had 4 players with a touchdown, and one player had 50 yards, if I'm not mistaken. Another guy had 36 yards. Easton had 150. So obviously the ball's getting spread more.
Right.
Talk about more how you're going to practice that in.
Well, we wanted to get into the, running with the tight end and like the sniffer with Sam and doing all that stuff. And when it kind of gets down to it, like our spread stuff, that's kind of our bread and butter. That's what we're good at. A little bit more of like misdirection this week and kind of moving guys around and some motions and some things like that. And just really being able to take advantage of the underneath stuff. They're going to give us a little bit of soft coverage. So let's just pick them apart. You know what I mean? And it's not necessarily a pre-planned, we've got to get this guy so many catches, we've got to get this guy. It's whatever they give us, let's take advantage of it. And that's one of the things that we really got in the groove of doing, especially in the second half, and honestly a little bit before the second half, but the second half, it was just kind of, all right, we're going here with it, and when Cam like understands that and really listens and like, hey, this is where we're going, we're really good, so I think we'll be able to keep rolling with that and not really take a step back this week.
No, that's awesome. And it's homecoming,
right?
People at home, they see the parades, they see like the kids having a good time, there's the stuff at halftime, but as a coach, homecoming week is probably one of the most frustrating, if not the most stressful week. Maybe not for you, but I know other
totally
coaches.
Totally not for me. I love it.
No? Oh, that's good. No, that's awesome.
I love that all the stuff is going on. You know what I mean?
Just talk about your experience with homecoming week and how.
I think it is such a great experience, and having been at, other schools, if anybody was at the game, Sunrise, that was their homecoming. There were, 50 people in the stands, and they had, I heard there was, a parade that went around the track of, 4 floats. I don't want to be there. I want to be somewhere where people are coming back for their 50th reunion and stuff like that, and, there's going to be a bunch of people there. I know we've got, short week stuff because of practice, but, I'm not a long practice guy anyway. Let's get in and out. but I enjoy the parade. Like the kids are in the parade. That was like one of the things people were going to ask if I was going to make the kids get in the parade, and I was like, absolutely. I think that's fun. I don't participate in the parade. I want to sit back and be, a town local and kind of watch the kids and do all that. And I think it's something that I don't know that our boys that have like lived and grown up here and go to high school understand how flippin' awesome homecoming week is out here. And I absolutely, and I've heard it from a bunch of people like, oh, it must be terrible. I enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, it's fun. Like, we were supposed to have the B game today, but I was very excited for a short practice, and then the B game, and then come here and do this, and then tomorrow's walkthrough, and the team dinner, and the parade, and then we play Friday. Like, I absolutely love it. There's nothing in the world like it.
That's the way I would look at it, too.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to people that don't like it, but honestly, I think Boulder City does a lot of their stuff right when it comes to that. And, like, just to throw this out there, our own JJ is getting inducted into the BC
I heard.
HS Hall of Fame.
I heard.
On Friday, so congrats to him on that. We're super excited. We'll get to see that. But, honestly,
just so you know, I was pushing. I was like, can we get some sort of big plaque? Like, not even a plaque, like a statue of you outside, just like maybe like the
But no, that's awesome. I always loved homecoming week, and the pressure it puts on the players. Talk about how you as a coach take that pressure off the players, if your team even has some.
I don't even think we really mentioned. Today was the first time where I was like, hey, we've got a lot of stuff going on. Like, my thing is just stay focused. There's a lot of extra stuff going on. I know you guys got the dance and stuff like that, but really, give me all of your attention till 10 o'clock on Friday night, and then enjoy your weekend. I want the kids to participate in all the stuff. After practice today, I remind them, I'm like, hey, the float building stuff, make sure you guys are out there doing that. And oh, you coming? I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But, I want them to participate in that stuff. 2 years ago, when we had first just moved out here, I didn't know there was a homecoming parade. And I was cursing left and right because I was coming home from Albertsons and I couldn't go home because they had blocked off. And I was like, Dad, this town does a lot of freaking parades. Like, what the hell is this one for? And then, now I'm like, this is awesome. Shut down the streets. We're walking down them, So, no, I think it's great. And I really do think our kids last year and even this year are able to kind of compartmentalize the homecoming activities and the game and kind of what that is. The other thing too is the homecoming, I didn't even mention the homecoming pep rally during school. That's a blast. You know what I mean? It's
really fun.
It really is a great fun week.
Are you going to do any dancing at the assembly?
Nobody asked me to. I definitely threw it out there that I was all for it. I mean, last year I
don't know if any of your players are watching, but here you go.
No, I was 100%, and I told Miss Her early on. I was like, "What are we doing for the dance for homecoming?" She was like, "You want to do that?" I was like, "Yeah, I would dance at every assembly."
Next coach is showing getting that video from
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
fair
we're gonna have
enough.
to
Fair
put it
enough.
CA.
You probably cussed so much.
I might have said one cuss word off mic. It was off mic, and I got yelled at already. Miss Wagner told me I'm not allowed to speak at any more pep rallies. I get it, but it was exciting. All right.
So you'd rather have a coach like you than someone that doesn't want to be there and doesn't want to dance and doesn't want to be involved.
Yeah, no,
that's what you want. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and my thing, and I said this in my interview, and I tell this to the kids. It comes up a couple times a year. One of the things with me coaching high school football, I never dreamt of, when I was younger and playing sports and I had, go to college and play sports and stuff like that, my dream was always to be a high school football coach. My grandfather was a high school football coach. My dad coached high school football. My idol growing up was my high school coach, Coach Patrica. I wanted to be them. I never wanted to be the Bill Belichick and stuff like that. And, when people ask why high school, when you talk to pro athletes from all over the place, kind of no matter what, it's always good memories of the 4 years in high school. Doing what I'm doing, I get to live in those 4 years from now until literally I'm done. You know what I mean? And like, I want to experience it and love every minute of it. I've got like young kids now that are really looking up to it, but like want to be there through when they're participating in all this stuff.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
There's nothing more exciting. I was just at a thing at Gorman last year, doing some football stuff out at Gorman, and I had some kids come up to me. They're like, "Coach JJ, what's going on?" And I'm, and I wish I could remember every kid I've coached.
Yeah.
I've coached thousands of them, but there's nothing more special to have some kid come up that remembered you, that wanted,
Right.
And if anything, they were going to come talk to you to say hi, coach, and give you a high five or just to say hi to you. There's nothing better than that. I look forward to that.
No, you're absolutely right.
So-
Yeah, as a player, I mean, one thing that was different about our team was we were so close with the coaches like Morelli, Coach Moore, Coach Haynes, Coach JJ, my brother, Coach Lee at the end, Coach Dunnigan. I can name almost all the coaches, Coach Capasta. Like we could sit down and we could talk to every single one of them. And now if I see them, it's awesome that I can go back and talk about like how they did have an impact on my life and how what they did pushed me to be better.
Right.
So, like one of Coach Moore's biggest things that I always think of, and I brought it up earlier, is what are you doing when they're not watching?
Right.
So like that's one of the biggest things as a player is how can I help when I'm not on the field? But getting back to Matter, kind of funny, no pun intended. What do you want to see from your team this next week to make you know going into Moapa and Gorman? I mean, and you have Durango before them, but what do you want to see from your team, and what growth do you want to see from them?
More than anything, it's not even a football X's and O's thing. I want to see the intensity from not even the kickoff. I want to see it from when we walk out on the field to start stretching.
Yeah,
that's kind of the biggest thing. Another thing that I got on the kids with, and I don't know if anybody noticed watching at home, we have kids that get up every play limping and trying to come out, and I need to do this and I need to do that. Just go play, have fun, have energy, and just go. I say it to a bunch of them that like when the game is over, you should be so exhausted because you've given it everything you have. But most of you guys look like you're dying at some point in the third quarter, and then you hear there's free hot dogs and there's a full sprint to the concession stand. You know what I mean? So like, give me everything you've got. Be locked in from the kickoff. Don't make me and Render have to lose our mind at halftime to get you guys up to go. I'm going to be back next year. That's the thing I kind of tell kids. I'm going to see another set of kids coming through. You seniors, you've got 7 more games. You're guaranteed 7 more games, some of you, for the rest of your life. Give it everything you've got from the get-go. You don't need to be punched in the mouth to go, oh, now I'm going to start playing. Give it what you got, because I think with our team and what we could do offensively and defensively, if we ever get a flipping lead, I think we're going to be hard to beat.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, so far we're kind of hard to beat if we're having to come from behind, but I would rather not do that. The last 2 weeks have been really, really fun games to watch. And, well, I shouldn't say watch. My wife has been yelling at me the last 2 weeks because she's been having a heart attack. I have enjoyed thoroughly the last 2 weeks. It has been a lot of fun to be on the field and do that sort of stuff. But we don't have to be in those situations. We can go out and, maybe get a first down on the first drive. That'd be great. Maybe score a touchdown on the first drive. Those sort of things, I think, just that little bit of like effort and I don't preparedness. I don't know. Just ready to go.
Take pride in what they're doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, ethics that you grew up with. Especially the inner city kid that wanted to be a coach. These kids nowadays, a lot of them, my experience is they want everything handed to them. They don't want to have to work for it.
There's a little bit of that. I can see that.
And trying to get out of them what you're wanting from them. Sometimes I think you need a psych degree first of all, and then you got also a little bit of a motivator with gutters and various things like that. Also helps quite a bit.
Well, and that's one of those things that's good with the film study and doing the film stuff, after the game, because I think, especially, I'm kind of picking on our wide receivers this week, but it is what it is. Play better, and then you won't be the topic. But that's one of the things with those receivers where they want the ball and they want to make plays and they want to do this, and then we show them on the film, and I said, how many of you guys want to play college football? who ran a college football route on this play? Nobody. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to go out there and do it. You can't just say, I'm going to do it. They don't give us points for you saying, oh, I'm going to score a touchdown. You got to actually go out there and score the touchdown. So I think that's something that we've got to work with.
It's interesting you say that because I go to UNLV football games. I cover them for our local show. And, this week they blew out Utah Tech 72-14. And you see some of the guys that, work their asses off at practice, never get in.
Right.
And these guys are getting in and they're scoring touchdowns. But that's not all you're watching. You're watching the plays before that and you're watching the routes that they run.
Right.
And they're up 60-14.
Right.
They're running crisp routes to make sure that their guys are getting in the end zone. And when they score, they go nuts. They go absolutely crazy because they know how hard they work for that. I think what you're saying is awesome. I think you're doing the right thing, that they need to understand that, like you said, in my freshman year, I was told, I can't even think of how many games you get now, but it was like 32 games. Like Dunnigan actually, remember, Dunnigan stood up and said, you got 32 games. You tell me how you want them to go. The next year, you got 24 games.
Right.
Next year after that, you got 16 games. And every year it dwindled down more and more to where I was at 8 games and I didn't even get 8 games.
Yeah, and that's something that I've talked to kids in the past, and it really hasn't come up this year with this group, but it reminds me, and it probably will next week when we're watching film. But it's football is a game. If you love football, like you said, going in, now we're playing trying to get 10 games a year. Best case scenario, these kids that come in and don't play football before they come in, your high school experience, you've got 40 football games. That's it. 40 times you're ever going to play football. It is a very small, limited window. I always tell people with practices, you get to practice 5 days a week. So if you love football, going out there and kind of dogging it during practice, like if you love the game, you get to practice 100 times a year. You only get to play 10 games, so that's one of those things that we want them to understand, and just give us the effort. I have no problem with mistakes or things like that. It's the effort. I will lose by 100 points, but everybody busted their butt on every single play, and then there's nothing bad that you could take away from it. But us winning by 1 and seeing a lack of effort for a majority of the game is infuriating. We won this week, and it kind of felt all weekend like it was a loss. Where last weekend, I told you guys, we lost by 1, and I was bummed that we lost because there were so many good things that I did see in growth. So it's just that effort. Just give me what you got.
So we don't have too much time left, but I really think I want to bring some attention to this. Your Bears went up to Utah this week.
Yes, they did.
They had. I heard they had a pretty good weekend. I just want you to talk more about that because I think they deserve the coverage.
The 5th and 6th grade team looked amazing. They came out. I think they won 12 or 14-0. 2 touchdowns. There's no scoreboard. It gets weird. But those kids really impressed me. They were flying around. They got a good running back. The quarterback threw the ball well. One of the receivers had a bunch of yards receiving and had a couple long runs and stuff like that. They looked awesome. The 8th grade team looked a lot like the varsity team did on Friday night. I don't know what it was, but the last 2 scrimmages we looked really good, and then went into the game Saturday, and it was tough. But there were good things. The one thing I will say about them is this week in practice, they really were eager to fix what they didn't know. You know what I mean? We had kind of gotten away with that group of them being some decent athletes, so we were able to make some plays, and this was the first time that we didn't really do our job, and it showed, and we've got it all figured out for this weekend, I hope. But the 8th grade team plays a pretty good team this weekend in Hurricane, and then I don't know who the 6th grade team plays. I think it's I don't know, Canyon something. I don't know. They all sound the same up there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, going up to those other states and getting to play schools. I think it was in Cedar, if I'm not mistaken.
We played at Canyon View.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
That's really awesome.
The one thing that did throw our kids off, that I will say that I didn't realize was a thing, because they just don't do it anymore. But I grew up doing it, and we played on grass, and you would have thought we were all right, here's lava, go out there. It was so weird. You ever seen those videos of inside cats that like are
Like, just
weird.
touch the
That's
ground
what we
for a
looked like for a while, and like, well, it's bumpy. There's rocks out here. I was like, it's grass, guys. Like, holy cow.
That's funny.
Yeah, so it was. We definitely were a little bit slower. So this week's on turf. So hopefully we're back to normal. So
That's awesome.
who knows?
No, that's super awesome. And like you said, building the love of the game. Yeah, do you feel like you're installing that already on these kids? Like you said of they came this week and they were ready and excited to try to fix what they are messing up. Do you already see the love of the game building within the
I'm
kids?
starting to see. There's a lot of. I'm also doing a fantasy football league with a bunch of the kids, and what you learn with a lot of these guys is football has never really been their thing.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a handful of kids that have played in the past and really like understand the game and understand. You know, they know players and stuff like that. But with a lot of kids, it's just kind of that basic stuff, and like they're starting to understand it a little bit more each week. You know, we've got a lot of kids that have literally no experience, and having to kind of force them to do the drills, to hit and make contact and things like that. And you know, it's one of those things where I don't expect our younger teams to. We're not looking to go undefeated. We're not looking to rule the world. You know, nobody's ever gotten a college scholarship or gotten a job or anything like that. I say this with the youth baseball all the time because they were awesome when they were 12. That means nothing. But them understanding what we're doing, and more than anything, kind of coming together and understanding each other is huge. You know, and like it's something that when we started this with the group out here, my son had never played football with kids that he went to school with. It was all kids from all over Vegas, and like he'd see him at practice, go home, and be like, hey, you want to come over to our house? Like, you live too far away, we're not doing that. But now these kids they're at practice every day. If someone's not at practice, you know, they're calling them like, why aren't you here? Blah, blah, you know, and then they get to enjoy that kind of camaraderie together at school. I've heard multiple times where, this isn't a great example, but where they've gotten in trouble together at school for kind of a football related thing, and like that's the good stuff. That's what I want out of it. So when they come in to the high school next year or the year after or everything like that, there's that history. You know, they've got stuff that they remember, and they're learning and, you know, building, because I think that's the toughest thing, is just having people kind of gel together, and we're getting that with a younger age. It's fun.
I want to ask, so when I was younger, like you said, it built a camaraderie, but also I played away my 8th grade year in Vegas because we didn't have a team with a couple of friends. And, you know, I just didn't, like you said, we built friendships just because we were social, but, you know, it just never felt the same. Like, you know, it was kids that we grew up with, and going back freshman year and playing with all these kids that we grew up with was just different. But I want to ask you something. Have you ever, as a kid, they used to line us up, you guys know you have your tunnel, they used to line us up on the sides of the tunnel as kids, and like the guys used to run through and high-five us. And obviously I still remember that to this day. Maybe one day you guys can maybe get that going.
We have discussed. Listen, the thing you need to understand. I mean, you didn't graduate that long ago, but some of the rules and regulations that we've got now with CCSD and like who's here and who's there.
Makes sense.
We want to do that. That's something we definitely want to do. But yeah, it's just kind of a planning thing. And I will say, like, we have like the greatest plans in the world. If you talk to us at the beginning, like middle of July, beginning of August, stuff like that. Stuff is planned, we're good to go, and then once the season goes, I'm like, I'm not dealing with that. Like, we've got to go. We've got other stuff to worry about. So yes, that's something that we'd like to do. We did last year, and I think we're going to do it again this year. We kind of have the like Junior Eagle night, pretty much, where like the 8th grade band comes and plays with the band. The younger cheerleaders come and cheer with them. And last year we acknowledged all of our tackle and flag kids and stuff like that, and that's something. I think that would be a good night to kind of get them to be out there and like kind of coming down the ramp and do all that.
I think, you know, I think you're doing something that, and I said this last week, I think you're doing something that has needed to be done in Boulder. And it was tried to be done with Coach, can't even think of his name, but who coached my brother, he tried to do it, build our programs up, and it kind of faded. And I think you're doing a great job of trying to make sure that Boulder has these next athletes coming in to play football, so it's not dwindling down. Because there were some years where it was very much dwindling down. When I was coming in, we only had 2 teams. It was barely a freshman team. So I think what you're doing is a great thing, and I think that Boulder City should be very happy and very thankful that you're bringing back football, and not just you, but all the coaches within the staff.
And it's really something that, like, it's just. Listen, Boulder City High School and like our high school sports, we don't survive without the kids coming from Henderson. We just need that numbers wise. But one of the things that like I saw with, kind of football and baseball and stuff like that is we're bringing in kids, and the Boulder City kids like aren't really participating. It's our town. Like, let's take some pride in it, and let's not be like, oh, and the also rans in there. I think we've got some kids out here that are good athletes, but they just need the opportunity. It's just so hard to try and get to a practice for football or baseball, basketball, soccer, anything where your parents are getting home at 5 o'clock, practices at 6 o'clock. Over the hill somewhere. Nobody wants to go to that. I don't want to do that. But knowing that you could just come up to the high school for a practice, it's awesome. And there's more kids going to be involved. One of the things we've talked about, and other people have kind of reached out to me, is just trying to get more sports involved in that. We've got kids that want to play soccer. We've got kids that want to play volleyball. Like, we just got to get people, and everyone's like, oh, are you going to do that? I'm like, I'm already kind of working with the football, baseball angle. Like, let's get somebody else.
Well, thank you, Coach. Seriously,
no
that's
problem.
all the time we have tonight. But thank you so much for coming on, and we're excited to see what your team's going to do next week. And thank you so much for tuning into the Boulder City Sportsnet Coaches Show. Go Eagles! And
you guys are doing the video.
Yes, we
right?
are. So
we're filming the game, so make sure you check it out.
Tune in Friday.
That doesn't mean you don't come to the game Friday night. It just means you can watch it again when you get home after the game.
With some analyzing.
To the game, watch it on YouTube.
No, we've got people in Chicago are watching. I got comments and all that from my dad and some other people. They're very excited about what's going on.
This one's going to be even better. We found a cameraman. We've got new headsets with microphones.
Sweet.
We're excited. So please tune in. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time.
Boulder City Sports Network is sponsored by Superior Builders, Inc. of Nevada, building spec residential and commercial with our investment partners for nearly 20 years. Contact Aaron at sbinevada.com for more information. And the I&I Music and Podcast Studio. If you're interested in using the studio, you can contact Dawn at iandimusic.studio. And EV Park, revenue-generating charging stations for apartments, hotels, offices, and short-term rentals. Contact sales at evpark.com to find out how your property